On today's Locked On Canadiens, coulda, woulda, shoulda. That's the story of the weekly recap, and it's coming up next.
You are Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canadiens. We want to thank you all for making us the number one sports podcast network. And for all you everydayers, we've got exciting news coming up in a little bit. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL to save $20 off your first purchase. My name is Laura Saba, also known as The Active Stick, and I'm joined, as always, by my wonderful co-host, Ian Boisvert. And we have a week to break down for the Montreal Canadiens. They played 4 games. They basically broke even, I guess. They were a 500 team, technically. We're going to get into the 2 games from the weekend, and then later on, we're going to do a weekly recap overall. And as always, we're going to choose our hero of the week with some honorable mentions. But first, let's talk about that Leafs game because it happened on Saturday night. I know the Blues game is fresh, but I want to lighten the mood a little bit before we get into the Blues game. So the Canadiens beat the Leafs in Toronto for the first time since 2021.
Yeah, and it was a game where I think the focus was clear for the Canadiens. It was to take care of the puck. Marty had some choice words at a morning skate. I believe he dropped. It was there was some profanity included in it regarding taking care of the puck. I'm reminded of John Heisman. A quote of his once, very famous football coach, who said, "It is better to die a small boy than to fumble this football." And that was Marty's version of it. And I think they really took that to heart in that game against the Leafs. Now, the giveaway stats ended up even. I think that is a lot of the home building keeps track of these stats because there's no chance the Canadiens gave away the puck as much as the Toronto Maple Leafs did in that game. But the Toronto Maple Leafs were very careless with the puck. It's sort of emblematic of where they've been over the last little while. Very low scoring affair. I think that was a game that Jakub Dobeš truly reestablished himself, which is what made Sunday so annoying. We'll get to Sunday later. But I thought that it was a great divisional game from the Canadiens. That's a game you play a team very tough. The Canadiens' power play is what did all of the damage in that one, for better or worse. They scored on their power play and then later on gave up a shorty to Scott Lawton. I thought just generally, though, what I found most impressive was the way the Canadiens defended in that one. And maybe that's a matchup thing because I thought they defended pretty well against Toronto when we were there in the building a few weeks ago. And I'm wondering how much of that is the same. Another strong second period in that one. Montreal dominated the one on home ice 2 weeks ago, and then on Saturday did the same thing in Toronto. So that was a really nice game. It set the Canadiens up for, potentially a big opportunity on Sunday, which they ultimately squandered. But leaving that in a vacuum, Saturday was great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things that the Canadiens were able to do, and here, like, I hear a lot of commentary saying the Leafs have injuries, they have key injuries. Listen, not as bad as the Montreal Canadiens right now. And we have to be honest about that. Like the Canadiens in like important players missing right now, I feel like they have the Leafs beat.
Yeah. And like, who was hurt for the Leafs? Brandon Carlo, who they all hate. Yes, Hildeby started for them. Hildeby was arguably their best player.
Yeah.
Just like last week or 2 weeks ago, Joseph Woll was their best player. When twice in a row your best player against a certain team is the goalie, it means that team's killing you.
Yes.
It's not good.
Yeah.
It's why for so long Carey Price was Montreal's best player, not because he didn't deserve it, but because he was elite, and also the team in front of him stunk.
Yes.
That I find that's an aspect of this. Well, the one, if I can I just complain really quick about how Toronto has sort of viewed that loss. They've keyed in on a sequence in the second period or the third period. I can't remember at this point, but William Nylander falls down. He draws a penalty. Noah Dobson is stick lifting him. And I know a lot of people are saying Nylander dove. I don't think he dove. He went to go do a crossover. His skates clacked together and he fell down. Kelly Sutherland gets fooled. He calls a penalty. It's a non-call. It's a phantom call. He missed it. He made a mistake. He looked up at the big board one time, saw it, and went, not the right play. Immediately after that, the Leafs are on the power play. The Canadiens are beating the crap out of John Tavares in front of the net. They're cross-checking him because they know you just gave us a soft one. You're not giving us another one. And that's a veteran move. That's what veterans in this league know. They know where the line is and they play right up to it.
The Florida Panthers formula.
The Florida Panthers' whole mantra is apologize to no one. Apologize to no one. And on that play where they're beating the crap out of John Tavares, and then Mike Matheson feels a cross check in his back and he goes, and he falls down. Is it a flop? You bet it is. But he knows I'm going to draw this because he screwed one up. This is reminded of a while ago. Cale Makar got tripped, except he didn't really get tripped. He just blew a tire and fell. And they were going to call a penalty. And he skated to the ref and he said, don't call it. That's why. I kind of think Cale Makar said, like, if I give them this penalty, if I say this penalty counts, they're gonna look up, they're gonna see it wasn't a trip, and they're gonna give us a bad one in a few minutes, and we're gonna be shorthanded all because of this. Yeah. I can get in front of this now and say, don't call it. I kind of wish like players would do that because this is the way NHL referees think. They think like this. Well, it's Tim Peel got caught on a hot mic saying it. It's why he's no longer, well, he was going to retire anyway, but it's why he got forced into retirement. Well, it wasn't much, but I wanted to get one against Nashville, banned from the league, even though it was the thing that we all knew every referee does.
Yes.
So all of this to say, the Leaf fans, Leaf media have like focused on that play as like, well, that's what happened. Nobody scored on any of those penalties. It was largely inconsequential. The reason the Leafs lost is because they failed to show up for a second period again. You know, then they got the puck in overtime and just decided to skate it around for 2.5 minutes, which 3-on-3 overtime needs to go away. I'm not doing this whole song and dance every time the Canadiens go to 3-on-3 overtime. Right? The fact that's got so much attention out of that game was so frustrating to me because it's like it had nothing to do with anything. Did the refs think? Yeah, they always do. Whatever, man. It had no one scored, no harm, no foul. We move on.
Yes. Let's talk about the shootout.
Yeah. Alex Texier, I don't know why he didn't try that move against the Jets. I'm
maybe he thought the Jets were expecting it because like we'd made such a big deal, you know, like it was the videos of the practices were in the zeitgeist, you know?
Yeah, maybe. I wonder too, because in that game, Cole Caufield comes in first and he shoots 5-hole on Comrie and scores. And I wonder if Texier's shooting next goes, well, I'm not gonna have 5-hole available twice in a row.
Yeah.
And this time Caufield comes in like he usually does. And I think he sees Hildeby down very low. At least this is what I saw. And he goes, I can just put it over his glove.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. And I think that opens up the 5-hole for Texier when he comes up next. So I think there's a lot to be said about the way the Canadiens pick their shooters in the shootout. Like the fact that we don't get to Demidov is kind of odd. I think that continues to be something weird that Marty does.
Yeah, like Nick Suzuki, like he hasn't scored in a long time, but also I think he's playing injured, which we'll get into a little bit later in the show. I don't think he's 100%. Like, I really feel like you got to give, like, if you're putting the new guy in, like, put some other new guys in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. And look, Dobeš was fantastic. I mean, the Matthews goal was just a sick goal.
It's a Matthews goal.
I would have put a lot on Nylander scoring in that shootout because he didn't get one in regulation or in overtime against the Canadiens. He's usually good for one against Montreal.
He's got the penalty.
Yeah, I was like, he's going to score. And he just didn't. It was a great save by Dobeš. For the second shootout in a row, which they played back-to-back shootouts, and Dobeš was in net for both of them, the game-sealing save or miss, he wasn't sure he had it.
Yeah.
You know, I believe it was Velarde who hit the post for Winnipeg, and he does the whole, like, Statue of Liberty, holds his hand up, freezes, puck hits the post, and he just skates off celebrating. Then Tavares comes in for Toronto, and he squeezes it, and you can just tell he doesn't know where it is.
Yeah.
And he's just waiting for the referee to blow the whistle or wave it off so he can skate off the ice, which is just like, that's the life of the Canadiens goaltending right now, man.
Yeah.
Just trying to get to the next one. Just get to the next save. And I thought that's what he did in that game particularly well. And I'm hoping they can build on in this upcoming week.
Yes, I also think that, circumstances dictated he played a second night on a back-to-back, and I think that he was not to blame for the loss. But we do have to talk about that loss. We are coming off fresh off it, so we are going to talk about that, and later on we'll have our weekly recap, and we'll talk about that. I keep calling them the Jets for some reason. The St. Louis Blues. We'll talk about the St. Louis Blues game in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. The World Cup is coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. But let's be honest, getting tickets is usually the hardest part. That's why the Game Time app is clutch, finally giving fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time, get alerts when great seats open, and buy tickets the moment they hit the app. It puts the power back in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. You just pull up the app and the layout makes it so simple to scroll through matchups and also compare seat views. You pick a game, tap a section, have your tickets locked within minutes. No confusion and no hunting for fine print. Prices also include fees right up front, which is what I love. There's no last-second surprises at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. The holiday season is here, and this year I'm not stressing out about what to wear or what to gift because the answer to both is Doer. Doer's pants are so comfortable and they look so good. Whether I'm on the go, traveling, lounging at home, going to a nice dinner party, or even to work, Doer makes me look great and they're so comfortable. They invented the original performance denim and they give us the best of both worlds, combining classic jeanswear style with the kind of comfort and performance you get from athletic wear. It's time for you to experience the comfort of Doer. I know you'll love these just like I do. Pick up a pair for yourself or as an amazing holiday gift for someone you love, just like I've been doing with my entire family. Find Doer at your local retailers like Neon, Shredder, and Mech. Or you can shop online at doer.ca/LockedOnCanadiens. You'll get 15% off your first order. That's DUER.ca/LockedOnCanadiens for 15% off. doer.ca/LockedOnCanadiens. Thank you for making Locked On Canadiens your first listen of the day, and thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad-free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Canadiens with no interruptions, members-only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to Supercast, go to lockedoncanadiens.supercast.com, or check the link in our show notes to learn more. All right, it is time to talk about that Blues game, which I know I've been dreading. I know you have a lot to say about it. I have to be honest with you, Ian. I wasn't super bummed about that game, but I do think that the Canadiens would have, and should have won, if not for things of their own doing, like reasons of their own making.
Yeah. There are no convenient truths. There are no convenient truths to tell us ourselves in this game. This was they're on a second half of a back-to-back with travel. So was St. Louis. St. Louis just came from Ottawa, who they beat in regulation. They did the Montreal Canadiens a favor beating them in regulation. They didn't get goalied. I know everyone was like, "Oh, Binnington, of course, this is the game where he's fantastic." He was fine.
He was normal.
The Canadiens had 3 goals on 2.94 expected goals. So no, that's not the reality. The Canadiens are hurt. They're dealing with that. Yes, they've been dealing with that, but the collapse they had in the second period, they would do that if they were healthy. We've seen them do it healthy. We've seen this happen. This was not officiating stealing the game from the Canadiens. I thought largely they were not a factor in this game at all.
Yeah, it was inexcusable, to be honest.
Yeah, it was a young team losing in a way that's become familiar. Too familiar. The first minute 44 of the second period, Montreal goes into the second period up 2-1 after a fantastic first period. And they give up 2 goals in a little less than 2 minutes to start the second period, and all of a sudden they're on the back foot. From 5 minutes remaining in the second period until about 9 minutes remaining in the third period, Montreal did nothing. They had nothing generating. They had nothing going. It was a complete dead puck era game at that point for the Canadiens. They end up giving up another goal in the third period that puts them down 2, which is a shame because then Dobson scores to bring them back within 1. Caufield nearly scores with the net empty with no time left on the clock. Binnington makes a save. He comes across and he beats Cole Caufield, which I'm sure just solidified Binnington's place on Team Canada as the starting goaltender, which makes me want to throw up for another reason. But look, this is you said coulda, woulda, shoulda is the one for me. This is a game you should win. St. Louis is a bottom 5 team in the National Hockey League right now. They're not good. They didn't have Jordan Kyrou in this game, and I know he hasn't been good this year, but he's one of their best players. I just really struggle to walk away with this feeling good about the Canadiens' effort when, the part of being a young team is you're supposed to be learning.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be picking these things up and taking them with you to the next game so that you don't repeat the same. We're seeing the same thing over and over again. The Blues are the worst second period team in the league, and that's a tough mantle because the Montreal Canadiens exist. That's really difficult.
Yeah.
I leave this game feeling incredibly frustrated and disheartened about where this team is at trying to play in the second period. It's a disaster.
I'm not going to disagree with you that I think the beginning of the second period or the first half of the second period and then the beginning of the third period, those really for me were where the Canadiens allowed the Blues the win, right? And we have to say that the Canadiens allowed it to happen because otherwise I thought the Blues looked less than pedestrian. I do want to talk about a couple of things in this game. There were some bright spots. That Noah Dobson play on the second goal was phenomenal. That's without him even scoring that goal later in the game, right? And on that first goal, right, there's some magic happening with Lane Hutson, Zach Bolduc, things that we want to be happening are happening in these games. They're just not consistent about it. And I think the problem is that generally when you have a team, the mistakes that they make aren't as lethal as the Canadiens are allowing them to be when, in their second periods or when they're squandering efforts late in the game. So for me, I really do want to talk about a couple of other things. Brendan Gallagher in the Leafs game left the game and then insisted on playing today. Did he do any good in that game?
I know he insisted on playing today. Did he have another choice? Did the Canadiens have another choice? I don't know that they did.
Why did they call Florian up or something?
That would have been 3 games in 3 nights for Florian Jacka. They just had a back-to-back against Belleville. So
there was
that would
no
have
other
been
guy.
Yeah, it was just a sort of, we need you to gut this one out. I hope he doesn't play again until he's good to go because I still think that line is not very good. There was maybe we'll cover it off on Rumor Roundup tomorrow. So maybe a tease on this one. But Frank Seravalli is reporting that Phil Danault is available from the LA Kings, much to I think a lot of people were like, oh, he's washed, don't touch him. And I kind of disagree with that. But
I absolutely disagree.
Yeah,
the Canadiens organization is writing a bunch of wrongs. That's another wrong they can write.
Yeah, for sure. But I think it's, it speaks to the need for another, defensive unit to help out Jake Evans because everyone's like, well, Joe Veleno's doing fine right now. I'm like, 2 weeks ago, you guys were ready to run this dude out of town.
Yeah.
What happened? What changed? Not much has changed. I think that line's playing well. I think getting a really good player in Bolduc on that line who should be playing up higher than he actually is helps.
Mm-hmm. Jared Davidson with a great game too.
Yeah, I thought Davidson was good. His first NHL point on Hudson's goal. I thought Hutson was motoring. I really liked his game. There were moments where he was starting to look like Erik Karlsson, just sort of, I'm just going to fly through the zone. The goal that he scored, what I loved about it was it sort of repeated what we saw in the Sens game, but I liked this one more because it wasn't the Sens scoring, where Bolduc and Veleno pulled two Blues out of the slot. I believe one of them was Logan Mailloux.
Yeah.
And Hutson recognized that from the blue line, just as Artem Zub did for the Senators, and just decided, I'm taking this ice. That's an opportunity where you have to trust your ability. You have to trust your speed to get there. You have to trust your ability to put the puck in the net, because if you don't, you've now created an odd man rush going back the other way with only one defender back.
Yeah.
So I think that's that to see that play out and be able to go, I recognize that the Canadiens got burned on that earlier last week. But for them to pull that out, it's nice. It's just, again, it's the search for the complete game. And I know the 60-minute effort, I've talked about it. That's a cliche for a reason. Like the 60-minute effort doesn't really exist. Maybe the best teams in the league get 2 or 3 of those a year. Like you're not going to have it every shift. But you have to have it more than the Canadiens had in this game against the Blues.
Yeah, and in the moments that you're not putting up your maximum effort, just don't allow 2 goals in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, don't play the greatest, but keep the puck out of the net. And so I do want to talk about Brayden Schenn as a possibility for this team, but we'll talk about that tomorrow. Up next, we're going to talk about our weekly roundup, go over the week as a whole, and that's coming up in just a moment here on Locked On Canadiens. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL Sundays move fast. One big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. With FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. Live betting is best when the game starts to shift. A receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after turnover. FanDuel lets you jump into the moment with live spreads and money lines that adjust instantly. Player props update as guys heat up. You can bet next touchdown scorers, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. I myself love using Saturday football for a chance to get closer to the game, and I do that with FanDuel. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. All right, it is time for our weekly recap. Last week, in the weekly forecast, we said the Canadiens were facing 4 beatable teams. Unfortunately, they only beat 2 of them, right? Yeah. Against the Ottawa Senators, I felt that was kind of going to be a predictable result, but it still frustrated me nonetheless, because I honestly, objectively feel like the Montreal Canadiens are better than the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, I think I mean, at this point in the season, you can absolutely make that argument. The Canadiens end their week 3rd in the Atlantic Division, 33 points. What's most frustrating is they're a point behind Boston, who's in 2nd with 30 points, or 30 games played. So Montreal has 2 more games at hand than the Boston Bruins, and they were only a point behind. So, that's a big point given up there. And they're only a point behind the Tampa Bay Lightning with as many games played. Montreal plays Tampa this week on Tuesday, and it'll be a second half of back-to-back with travel for the Tampa Bay Lightning. We'll get into that in the weekly forecast tomorrow. But I think that this was a big chance missed for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, I will say, I want to talk a little, just briefly, about how this division, how this conference is sort of shaking up. You don't really get any kind of advantage winning the division in the Atlantic, because the Tampa Bay Lightning right now are in 1st in the Atlantic with 34 points. Both wildcard teams have 34 points. So you'd essentially be playing, I mean, there's a long way to go between now and then, but this reminds me of the 17 playoffs where the Canadiens won the division with 103 points, and their reward was to play the New York Rangers, the lowly wildcard team, with 102 points. Like, it was not an advantage at all. So I wonder if it makes more sense for teams to finish in that 2-3. But anyway, the Canadiens need the points. Like you said, it was a winnable week. To leave it at 500, especially in a week where the Ottawa Senators have just really fallen off. They're not playing. The only team lower than them in the standings in the East right now are the Buffalo Sabres, and they're tied with the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Florida Panthers. The Canadiens could have done better by themselves, or done well by themselves to pick up more points and put some distance between them and those other teams. The good thing about this schedule being so condensed, there's a dearth of opportunities for them to do this. Like, there's no lack of opportunity for the Canadiens to continue to pick up points. it's just a frustrating effort when they just, they end a week like that.
I like the word myriad. I love the word myriad.
There
I
you go.
used it in like all of my essays in university. I always put myriad.
Yeah.
Also in like all the college articles I wrote. Myriad of opportunities. Okay, we are going to talk about the upcoming week when we have our weekly forecast on tomorrow's episode, as well as talking about Brayden Schenn, because now I'm very curious about him. We're going to talk about Phil Danault as well tomorrow. But okay, overall this week we know it was a little bit disappointing because the potential was there to go 8 out of 8. You only got 4 out of 8, and also they did allow a point in both of the games they won. The Leafs one, I think, a little bit more consequential than the Jets one. But let's talk about who could be better next week. Who do you think was not great this week?
I won't say necessarily this week, but I think there's something lacking in Nick Suzuki's offensive game right now.
I think he's playing hurt.
And maybe this sounds heartless. You're in the lineup, man. Like I know. I get he's playing hurt.
And I don't think he wants to not play because of that Ironman streak.
I don't even think maybe it's the Ironman streak. I'm going to take him at his word when he says it doesn't really matter to him all that much, even though I disagree. It would matter to me a great deal, but maybe Nick Suzuki's just built different. For me, it's that he doesn't. Could you imagine this team without Nick Suzuki? Like it's a nightmare to think about.
Yeah.
Like I think that's where he's coming from. Here's the question I have for everyone who's going, well, he's playing through an injury. What's the injury? What is it in his game that's causing him to play poorly? Like, what are you seeing where you're like, he's hurt, and this is the part of him that's hurt, and it's impacting his game in this way?
I honestly feel like it's somewhere in his midsection because the way that he's skating feels like he's favoring his like abdominal area. I don't know if it's ribs, I don't know if it's groin, but the way that he skates, like, and it's not just like he looks at the beginning of his shift like he always looks at the end of his shifts when he's gassed and he's like clutching his like belly area and like trying to like fight through it, and it feels like there's like a belt holding him back. That's what I'm seeing, and I think that could also affect his shot. I think that if like, like I'm just trying to like think of the motions, and if it is in that area, like, yeah, like it's going to affect your balance. It's going to affect a whole bunch of stuff.
Sure. 2 or 3 games ago, we weren't talking about Nick Suzuki playing injured because he looked fine and he looked great. And now he's had a couple games where offensively he takes a step back and everyone goes, there's the injury. Like for me personally, I find it to be a convenient out when we're like, oh, well, he had a bad, he's hurt. Like, I just think like this game and the St. Louis game and the Toronto game, both those games, he had a 2-on-1 and he just bottled it. Like he bobbled the puck on his hands. He just completely lost the puck. And I go, are his fingers broken? Like, I don't understand. Like that's not an injury thing. He's in his own head trying to make a play with the puck thing, which I don't know why he would be in that state, because I think that line is humming. Yeah. Cole Caufield's on an 11-game point streak. It ties a career high for him. If we want to get to our hero of the week, for me, if it's not Juraj Slafkovsky, it's the guy who's got points in 11 straight games. So like I'm curious to see how he's going to pull himself out of this, because he's not like, if it's an injury or a tired thing, they're cooked, because like they can't replace him, which is why I don't think it's those things. Like I think that they would manage this better if that was the case. I don't see it. I think he's just fighting the puck, and sometimes that happens, and then you just snap your fingers and he's Nick Suzuki again.
So like in your scenario, there's a lot more hope than in my scenario, right? Because in your scenario, he could just turn it back on again because we've seen him do it time and time again.
Sure. I think, yeah, and this isn't me saying he's 100% healthy. I don't believe anybody on this team is 100% healthy with the schedule that they're playing. I think, and this goes to a different topic. If the NHL is going to be a regular participant in the Olympics, this cannot be regular. This cannot be the way that we conduct an NHL schedule every 4 years. It's archaic to put these guys through this grind. Start the season earlier. Start the season late September if you need to. Buy these guys a couple more weeks. No more of this like October 10th through 14th. None of that. We start October 1st or earlier.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound like a lot, but you think you think about it, they're only losing like a little over 2 weeks for the Olympics. So
Yeah.
like, just stop doing this.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
as hockey fans and as people in hockey media, we should stop accepting it as just like what needs to happen for them to play in the Olympics. No, they don't. Start the season earlier. It's fine.
I also want to point out there's a whole bunch of teams that have had like a week with only 2 games in it.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
the
fix
Canadiens
that.
earlier this season, they had a
Yeah.
couple weeks where it was just like nothing was happening. What's the point of this?
Yes, absolutely. All right, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah, sorry.
We're not going to be able
Got
to solve the
sidetracked. I'm
world
big
problems.
mad about
Okay.
that St. Louis game, and I'm taking it out on the IOC, taking it out on everybody.
You're taking it out on the Olympics. Okay, who was your hero of the week? Cole Caufield?
I'm going with Cole Caufield. It just felt like, for the first time in a while, it felt like every time the puck was on his stick,
Yes.
something good was going to happen.
Yes.
He's riding that huge point streak. They will go as far as that line will take them. So I'm a big fan of this week.
2 honorable mentions. Lane Hutson.
Yeah.
Kind of remembering he's Lane Hutson the last couple of weeks. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm amazing.
I'm that guy.
I'm that guy. And also Juraj Slafkovsky again.
Dude. We got a mailbag question from somebody, and it was essentially, I'll find the listener and we'll talk about it later this week. We'll give our responses, but is his power coming from the fact that he got like that cut and now he looks like an evil villain? I'm kind of digging that bit of, we're putting that in the canon. That is now in the Juraj Slafkovsky canon.
Okay, we're going to build up that story a little bit later. We got so many mailbag questions last week that we didn't answer all of them. So some of them are going to translate over to this week. I do want to thank everyone for them. Before we go, we have our daily trivia, of course. And our last question was related to an outdoor game.
Yeah, because the NHL botched the announcement of their Heritage Classic, and then it sort of fell over the weekend that it was finally announced. So I asked, who was the last Montreal Canadiens to score in an outdoor game? Laura, who was the answer to that question?
It was Paul Byron.
It was Lord Byron from Subban and Nathan Beaulieu. It made it 5-1 the 2016 Winter Classic. It was his second of the game. Right as he scored that goal, Doc Emmerich on the NBC broadcast was saying, usually Winter Classics were always 1 or 2 goal games, and then he puts that in to put the Canadiens up 4. I thought that was really funny. Our buddy Scott Matla had that one right. He texted it to us. Paul P, Mark Couturier, and Garrett S have the answer correct as well. Sticking with Paul Byron's first NHL goal came on January 25th while playing with the Buffalo Sabres against the Ottawa Senators. This other former Montreal Canadien also scored in this game. So who also scored in that game, who was a one-time Montreal Canadien? If you have the answer, put it in the comments down below this video. Send it to us any way you know how. We'll give you a shout-out on the next episode of the show.
Thank you so much for tuning in today to Locked On Canadiens. Tomorrow, as I said, we're going to be talking about potential Brayden Schenn. Phillip Danault is on the rumor mill. Make sure you subscribe and follow Locked On Canadiens so that you get all the latest updates. Also, you can find us all over social media, Locked On Canadiens on TikTok, on Blue Sky, and on Instagram. You can also find us, lockedoncanadiens@gmail. Send us all of your things, mailbag questions, trivia guesses, and all of that. And also, it is Spotify Wrapped season. Did we make your Spotify Wrap? Prove it on social media to secure a free month of our brand new Everydayer Club. Just tag our national Locked On Podcast Network on any social platform, and we'll drop you a code. Be one of the first to join the Everydayer Club to get your favorite show ad-free and exclusive access to the members-only Discord channel. For those of you on video, we send you the very first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. On audio, make sure your second listen of the day is NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all tomorrow.